Welcome back. Today we're looking at a piece about an incident at VP J.D. Vance's home in Cincinnati.
Right.
Shattered windows, a suspect arrested, but no confirmation of actual gunfire.
Mm,
And I will say, the piece does a good job right up front clarifying that ambiguity, which sets a nice objective tone.
it does.
So let's start there. A key theme running through this material seems to be this fundamental tension.
Yeah.
It's the focus on potential gunfire versus the immediate fact that it's unconfirmed. Let's really look at how that contradiction might affect a reader's.
That tension is, it's right on the surface.
Yeah.
The initial hook is suspected shooting. That's very high stakes. But the court confirmed fact is, property damage and a security breach.
Just the wind.
Exactly. The windows and the Secret Service response. And the weakness there is that it creates this structural dissonance. You force the reader to immediately question the lead.
Right.
You grab them with this huge, dramatic idea, and then you immediately walk it back. The piece feels anchored to the most dramatic possibility, even if the facts aren't quite there yet.
And that can make the actual confirmed events, which are still very serious, feel secondary.
It can. It can erode that initial trust.
Okay, but that's a powerful point about managing expectations. But, don't you risk making the incident sound less urgent if you pull back from that framing completely? We are talking about the vice president's home.
That's a really valid concern, and it all comes down to positioning.
Okay.
The suggestion isn't to downplay it, but to realign the angle. Focus firmly on what's confirmed, this high-profile, targeted act of vandalism and a major security breach. And then you use the possibility of gunfire as a detail that shows, the scope and the seriousness of the investigation. It's not the hook itself.
So the breach is the story, the gunfire is a detail within that story.
Precisely. The confirmed facts are more than strong enough to carry the story's weight. The real significance is in the successful, immediate response to a high-profile security failure.
I can see that. Prioritizing the breach and the successful response, it actually centers the competence of the law enforcement involved. It strengthens the whole report.
Exactly. You keep the gravity without sacrificing the factual robustness. So for a concrete option, you could focus the lead entirely on that verified security failure and the response.
Making the arrest the central action.
Yes, lead with the confirmed consequence, not the unconfirmed act.
So give me an example.
Okay, so you could lead with the active role of the protective detail. Something like Secret Service agents assigned to the Cincinnati residence of Vice President J.D. Vance alerted local police after discovering shattered windows and seeing a suspect flee the scene, leading to an immediate arrest.
Okay, that's strong.
Or another way you could shift the focus to the target itself. Maybe a high-profile security breach at Vice President J.D. Vance's East Walnut Hills residence saw windows shattered late Monday, resulting in the immediate apprehension of a suspect.
Who was seen running from the property. Yeah.
And with that structure, the detail about the unconfirmed gunfire, it just becomes a natural part of the ongoing investigation.
Right. It's a detail the police are pursuing, not a correction to your premise.
Exactly. It makes the report feel far more grounded, more authoritative from the very first sentence.
It really does. It places the focus squarely on confirmed operational details, which is what you want. Okay, so let's turn to the suspect. The material is efficient. It establishes a suspect was arrested. But the report seems to treat this arrest as sort of an endpoint, not a new beginning. It says police arrested a suspect after he was documented fleeing, but details are limited. How do we improve that flow?
Yeah, that makes sense. But the presentation of the arrest, it should support a deeper level of engagement.
Right.
The weakness here is that while it admits details are limited, it doesn't really exploit the potential of the arrest itself. The narrative momentum just stops.
It hits a wall.
It really does. The individual is caught running towards the east, and that's it. The reader's just left wondering, what now? Who is this person? Why were they there? This high-profile suspect becomes a passive detail instead of, a new source of conflict.
So the arrest isn't the end of the story. It's the start of the next one, the legal and investigatory one.
Precisely. We need to frame it that way. The suggestion is, even with restricted information, you explicitly foreground the status of the suspect and the next steps. You make the process of finding the motive the new narrative conflict.
You turn the information vacuum into part of the story.
Yes, an acknowledged professional obstacle that the police are actively working on.
That seems like it could be tricky, though. You're focusing on procedural stuff, which can feel a bit clinical or, even boring. Are we risking that? especially if the police are intentionally holding things back?
That's a critical challenge. Yeah. The key is to frame the procedure not as bureaucracy, but as necessary rigor.
Okay.
So instead of just saying details are limited, which is very passive, you strengthen the report by explaining why they're limited. You link it to the process.
Okay, so an example of that would be what?
So instead of that passive phrase, you structure it like, the individual is currently in police custody, though authorities are restricted from immediately releasing specific charges or potential motives while federal and local agencies process the scene.
And conduct interviews. I see.
Yeah, it transforms a lack of detail into an intentional, procedural delay. It actually validates the authority of the report.
That's a great distinction. It shifts the focus from what the reporter doesn't know to why the authorities can't say anything yet. That maintains momentum.
It does. Or another way, you could frame the Secret Service's role as the direct catalyst for the capture.
Turn the arrest into a dynamic win for security.
Right. For instance, the swift arrest, confirmed within minutes of the breach, was executed after Secret Service agents observed the suspect running and immediately relayed the description to responding Cincinnati police patrols.
That highlights the coordination.
Exactly. It moves beyond just confirming someone was arrested. By focusing on the how, you maintain urgency and give the reader a real stake in what happens next.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's look at the operational details then. I'm thinking about the 00:15 a.m. timestamp, the Secret Service calling the police, the location in East Walnut Hill. These facts feel essential.
Absolutely. And the weakness is that the detail about the Secret Service alerting police at 00:15 a.m., it's buried. It's way down in the piece.
Right. It comes after the part saying the Vance family wasn't home.
Which is important, of course, but the operational timeline, when the breach was detected, how the suspect was caught, that should provide immediate context. Separating the detection from the response, it diminishes how active and successful the security operation actually was.
So the current flow gives us the who and the what, but it really undercuts the when and how of the response itself. The reporting feels a little scattered because of it.
Exactly. The sequence of information matters so much in a story like this. If you establish that timeline right away, the whole piece feels tighter, more urgent.
So the suggestion is pretty straightforward.
It is. Restructure the sequence. Move the elements of immediate detection and response, the time, the Secret Service's role, much, much earlier. It creates a more dynamic timeline and establishes that operational competence right from the start.
So we're basically using the details from sources like Fox 19 Now to front-load that operational flow.
Yes, use that specificity to maximize impact. You prioritize the response over the safety confirmation, not because safety isn't important, but because the response is what drives the ongoing story.
Okay, let me challenge that for a second. Isn't the safety of the vice president and his family the most pressing detail for the average reader? If we push Vance was not home too far down, are we maybe creating unnecessary alarm?
That's an excellent challenge, really. And we acknowledge the safety detail is paramount, but it can be integrated without derailing the operational timeline.
How so?
By prioritizing the response, you first establish the gravity of the event and the effectiveness of the security. Then, once the reader understands how quickly the situation was contained, the confirmation that the family was safe becomes a powerful confirmation of that successful operation.
Instead of just being a necessary piece of information to get out of the way?
Exactly. So, for instance, you could move those detection details right after the initial description of the damage.
Weave it all together.
Yes. So let's think about how to phrase that. Option A could be merging the location and response. Something like, the incident occurred shortly after midnight around 00:15 a.m. at the Vice President's residence in East Walnut Hills. Secret Service agents protecting the home immediately detected the damage, saw an individual running, and alerted Cincinnati police.
That's very tight. Breach, time, location, response, all in a row.
Right. Or option B, you could focus more on the chronology. Responding to an alert from the Secret Service at 00:15 a.m., Cincinnati police secured the area and took a suspect into custody. The vice president and his family were not present at the time.
So that handles the safety assurance immediately after the detection time. That works. It minimizes any sustained alarm.
And it builds immediate confidence in how the situation was handled, which is key when you're reporting on security breaches, especially with high-stakes elements like potential gunfire floating around.
It also gets that specific location, East Walnut Hills, William Howard Taft Road in earlier, which provides important context right when the events are unfolding. It grounds the whole report.
It does. It enhances that sense of reality and immediacy.
That was an incredibly useful deep dive. The focus here has been all about maximizing the reader's experience and really the impact of the confirmed facts.
Absolutely.
So to summarize the main points for our listener, first, it's about realigning the core angle to the confirmed facts, the security breach, the vandalism, instead of leading with the unconfirmed gunfire.
Right. Manage those expectations.
Second, sharpen the focus on the suspect. Treat that arrest not as an endpoint, but as the beginning of the investigation.
Use that information vacuum as your new narrative conflict.
And finally, optimize the flow by front-loading those critical details. Get the time and the Secret Service's role in there right away to establish the chronology and the effectiveness of the response.
The material is strong, it's objectively reported. These suggestions are really just intended to maximize its robustness, enhance that narrative flow, and just make sure the reader fully grasps the gravity of what was confirmed and the professionalism of the response.
Excellent. We invite you to implement these changes and submit your revised material back to us for another look. Until next time, keep refining your craft.